65 hours from now, President-elect Donald Trump will raise his right hand and take the oath of office for the second time. He'll be the first president since Grover Cleveland to return to the White House in non-consecutive terms. What we are about to witness Monday inside the Capitol of the United States will be historic in many, many ways. America is at an inflection point, and 8 years makes a world of difference. That's our Why It Matters segment tonight. On the left, this was the scene in Washington a day after Trump's first inauguration. 500,000 women flooded the streets to protest Trump's first term. I was in the march. It was wild. On the right, what I saw this morning outside my own window, the founder of Starbucks parked his $130 million yacht. As business tycoons, even the most liberal among them, come to celebrate Donald Trump's return to Washington. It's not just the billionaires who are changing their approach to Trump. Media organizations are too. CNN's changing its programming to be Trump-friendly and reportedly banishing Jim Acosta, the main Trump antagonist at CNN during the first term, to the midnight time slot. And no, I did not read that with a smile. The Washington Post is changing their slogan from democracy dies in darkness to riveting storytelling for all of America. Sounds a bit similar to our slogan, News for All Americans. Welcome to the party, Washington Post, 5 years late. 8 years ago, entertainment, tech, business, and media united with Democrats to form a resistance against Donald Trump, the Trump resistance. But this time around, the resistance is nowhere to be found. Trump has an open runway as he leaves Mar-a-Lago and lands in Washington. This week's confirmation hearings make it very clear that Democrats still hate Trump and his nominees. The Democrats in the United States Senate and in the United States House are about the only ones who are still believing that hating Donald Trump works. Voters do not think that way, nor does American business leaders, nor does the media, nor do entertainers. In Trump's first term, there was a sizable part of the Republican Party that didn't fall into line behind him. Trump and his enforcers have broken their will to fight. With that, George Will joins us, NewsNation senior political contributor, Pulitzer Prize-winning columnist for the Washington Post. Mr. Will, very good to see you. Thank you. Very different situation in terms of Donald Trump today or on Monday than 8 years ago. Trump has been normalized. What does that mean for day one in the first 100 days?
Well, day one on the first 100 days is going to be just exactly like the last days of the Biden administration. Mr. Biden, like so many modern presidents, rather relishes governing through executive orders. It means you avoid the nuisance of actually having to persuade the people's representatives in Congress to get your things done. So there's this flurry of executive orders, but, Leland, things achieved by executive order are written on water because they can be undone often by just another executive order. Take one example. Democrats deny that there is an electric vehicle mandate. There obviously is. They do it through the EPA's emissions regulations. Trump is going to come in and undo, I'm pretty sure, this so-called non-existent electric vehicle mandate. What you get here over the long term is unstable government, yo-yoing back and forth with dueling executive orders. It's very satisfying for presidents. It gives them the illusion of action and of accomplishment. But as I say, it's written on water.
My sources tell me another part that's going to be very different is the level of experience, right? I mean, I remember covering day one of Donald Trump's presidency. They didn't know where the bathroom was. They had no idea really how government functioned. And now you have had the core Trump team, you think about the Stephen Miller types of the world, who've been spending the past 2 years writing the executive orders for day one. They have a list of things they want to get done. I thought your column sort of alluded to that. Trump doesn't have a mandate, but he does have executive orders. He seems to think he does have a mandate. Why don't you say he does?
Well, he does have a mandate in the sense that he is 2 out of 3 times on a national ballot he's been elected. This time he won which is fairly rare for Republicans. He won the popular vote as well as the electoral vote. But basically, that's a mandate to be Donald Trump. When you come to the details, for example, the president evidently has it in his mind that he can, by executive order, end birthright citizenship, which I and most other people who've read it and read the case history on it believe is guaranteed in the 14th Amendment. I don't think he'll do that challenge birthright citizenship, because he doesn't want to begin his presidency with a protracted legal fight culminating in a defeat. So he'll have to pick his targets. But Lord, it's a target-rich environment, Leland. There's so many things that have been done by executive order that he can undo.
What do you make of this massive change? If you think about it, I was talking to a good buddy who's much smarter than me earlier today. The resistance was this massive glacier, right? I mean, it was an immovable force that resisted Donald Trump, the entertainment industry, big tech, big business, the media, all aiding the Democratic Party through 4 years, and arguably through the 4 years that Donald Trump was not in office, that he was running for president once again. And then all of a sudden, it was as if the glacier was put in a microwave. It did not melt slowly, it just vanished.
Well, what we learned in the election was this. When Biden became president, the resistance, Beyonce, George Clooney, all the professors and faculty clubs from coast to coast went into hibernation. Then they came out for the 2024 election, and it turns out, Leland, shocker, the American people are not waiting for instruction on how to vote from George Clooney and Beyonce. The Democrats have academia, they have Hollywood, they have Silicon Valley, they've got all kinds of things. What they don't have is the White House. And I think they would sit down and wonder if they've got a fair trade here.
Yeah, Taylor Swift to that. Speaking of President Biden, today he said that the Equal Rights Amendment was now the law of the land, his last, I guess, official act. Take a listen.
Today, I affirm the Equal Rights Amendment to have cleared all the necessary hurdles to be added to the U.S. Constitution now. The Equal Rights Amendment is the law of the land now.
I'm confused.
That's his opinion, but it's only his opinion. That is utterly without legal force. The Equal Rights Amendment has not been ratified by 38 states. No court is going to say that. The official ratifier, if you will, the person who certifies that an amendment has been ratified, is the Archivist of the United States, who has said clearly to Congress and under oath that the Archivist is not going to do this until a court orders it to, and no court is going to order it to, because 38 states did not ratify the amendment within the time limit stipulated statutorily when it was sent to the states. That was just more Biden noise from the lame duck.
Yeah. Stephen Joachim, who is our data guru, put together a fascinating set of charts about inauguration 2017 versus inauguration 2025. Approval handling of the transition, 52 versus 37. We see this gallon of gas, almost $1 more. Mortgage rates, almost 3 points higher. Dow Jones Industrial Average, well more than double. Obviously, the border still a mess. U.S. on the wrong track, 5 or 6 points higher. What does the state of the country right now, how does that change how Donald Trump governs?
Well, the economy he's inheriting, frankly, is the envy of the world. And he's riding a crest of political movements, Leland, that is not just in this country. It's almost akin to the 1979-1980 moment when Thatcher and Reagan came to power. But that was only in the English-speaking world. From Argentina to Italy to Le Pen in France to Alternative for Germany in Germany, to the Reform Party in the United Kingdom. there is a surge of populist right-wing support around the world, of which Donald Trump is part catalyst and part reflection. So he's arriving at a moment when, A, the country is in good shape, and he's arriving when there are global winds blowing in his direction to fill his sails.
There is a tradition of presidents leaving a note for the incoming president, right? This goes back, obviously Reagan did it for George H.W. Bush, who was his vice president, but there have been others. H.W. Bush to Clinton, Clinton to Bush, Bush to Obama. There was one from Trump to Biden. What do you think Biden says to Trump in that letter that'll be waiting for Donald Trump on the Resolute desk?
That's awesome to think about, Leland. I hope he leaves one, because we're seeing right now a certain childish disregard of the niceties here. Michelle Obama won't go to a tea with Joe Biden. Nancy Pelosi won't come to the swearing in. Look, John Adams didn't go to the swearing in of Jefferson, but John Adams was a kind of prickly man, not the cuddly man portrayed by Paul Giamatti in the series on his life. It would be very nice if people could just be graceful losers and magnanimous winners and not do things like we're seeing now, this scorecard of who's pouting and who's not.
Well, Mr. Will, you give us something to aspire to as a country. It is good to see you, sir. Thank you as always. Look forward to chatting next week when we have a new president, which we will, the inauguration of Donald John Trump, the 47th president of the United States, also the 45th. Monday, 9 a.m. Eastern. Coverage begins on NewsNation. Starts earlier than that with Marky Martin, 6 a.m. for the morning show, Morning in America. The push for healthier food has people like me hoarding my favorite junk food. This is true. Now here's the question. Do I really need to? The fact that I am hoarding my favorite junk food very much upsets Jillian Michaels, our next guest, to tell me whether I really do need to stuff my pantry with candy corn before RFK Jr. joins Trump's cabinet. See you in a minute. The White House on that's the Capitol. Just 3 days, Donald Trump will be inaugurated. There's the White House. He'll be inaugurated at the Capitol, and then he'll head to the White House. One of his first orders of business may be saving TikTok. If you don't know what it is, your kids and grandkids do. The Supreme Court ruled today that Congress had the right to ban the video sharing platform in the app stores of Apple and Google. Well, the Chinese say rather than letting it be banned in the app stores, they're going to shut down the app on Sunday. Chinese think they can create pressure, and they are, especially among the TikTokers who are melting down over this.
It just truly hit me tonight that TikTok could be gone.
It feels like we're losing a community. It feels like we're losing friends. We're losing a platform where we learned so much.
And to the U.S. government, I'm never forgiving you for this. And I'm never going to trust you ever again because you just, like that, took away millions of people's income and livelihood.
Just in case, this is my last post and I don't see you guys anymore. Hopefully I'll see you later. It's not a goodbye.
All right, so President Biden says he will leave the decision to the next administration. TikTok has had about 270 days, the owners of TikTok, which are controlled by the Chinese, to sell because it is a Chinese-controlled app. They won't. Donald Trump says he's going to study it. And this shouldn't be political. There's a very simple question that we should all ask. Is TikTok good for America? It is a rhetorical question. I will answer it for you. The answer is absolutely not. The Chinese Communist Party controlling news and information for 170 million Americans is objectively bad and dangerous. In the Cold War, we would have never let the Soviet Union own NBC News and the New York Times. In World War II, we wouldn't have allowed Japan to own half of America's radio stations. Yet, TikTok is there. With us now, Dr. Tiffany Moon, anesthesiologist, associate professor of anesthesiology, cast member of Bravo's Real Housewives of Dallas, who has 1.7 million followers on TikTok and joins us now. Appreciate it. I'm sure you disagree with me, which is absolutely okay. But I'm going to ask the question anyway. The Chinese, without question, are using TikTok to force feed propaganda. We know this to be true. So what is the benefit to America? And I'm sympathetic to those who make money on TikTok, but what is the benefit to America that makes that risk worth it?
I don't think the benefit is necessarily to America in terms of the national security threat. I think the problem is that for the last 5 years, people have been on TikTok building communities, creating businesses and having that be their main source of income. And now all of a sudden you're coming away and ripping that away from them. I think the question is, why did we get into this mess to begin with? If we knew that TikTok was a Chinese-owned company and that they are obligated to give any information that the Chinese government requests, why then did we let it get so far that 170 million Americans are on the app and all these people, like you said, are having a meltdown because the app is imminently in danger of being taken away?
To be clear, it's the Chinese that are taking it away because the ban is only on new users. But I'll answer the question to you, which is because people in our government, specifically Congress, are slow, inefficient, and terrible at their jobs. That said, eventually Congress got its act together, and it was bipartisan. A massive, overwhelming majority of both the House and the Senate said this is dangerous. It needs to stop. China was given lots of opportunities to give up the algorithm, to sell. And you say all of a sudden, this law went into effect months upon months ago. Here's Tom Cotton.
Congress recognized the unique dangers of TikTok when we voted on a massive bipartisan basis last April to give its Chinese communist-influenced parent company, ByteDance, 270 days to sell TikTok to an American buyer or to be shut down in America. That deadline is Sunday. What's more, ByteDance and TikTok had plenty of additional warning for years.
I'll give you one more, and again, I'm sympathetic to people who have their livelihoods on TikTok. But TikTok, the owners of TikTok say it's a business. They've been offered well over market value for the app, but they won't take it. So therefore, it's not a business. It's a propaganda tool by Chinese intelligence. They won't give up the algorithm. They won't sell. So I'm confused why everyone's saying, oh my God, we had no idea.
I think the trouble comes from the end user who has been following this. And there's been, news that TikTok is going to be banned before, and then it didn't. And this time when the Supreme Court, as you said, ruled unanimously not to, or to uphold the ban on TikTok, I think the users are seeing that that's an infraction of their freedom of speech and that it's going to kill their business because this is the primary way that they, advertise their business, or that they've built a community of so many followers and make their living off of TikTok. I think there's two things at play here. I think that TikTok does present a national security concern. That is very valid. Also, I think there's a large community of people on TikTok who are really going to feel the effects of the ban, not only monetarily, but emotionally and mentally, as you showed.
The fact that people would have a mental and emotional problem with an app being banned, I guess, says a lot about where we are in America. But thank you. Nuanced, fascinating, thoughtful. We'd love to have you back sometime, Dr. Moon. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Yes, ma'am. Robert F. Kennedy wants to make America healthy again, and we need it. But what about my candy corn? Fitness guru Jillian Michaels on whether or not we need to hoard the candy corn and the Skittles. You see, she knows what's important. We'll see you in a minute. Live pictures of Capitol Hill. Robert F. Kennedy Jr. has been hard at work this week, making his rounds and meeting with senators in preparation for his confirmation hearing. This surprised us when we saw it. He's riding high. He has the highest approval ratings out of Trump's inner circle, 40%. Elon Musk, 37%. Marco Rubio, 25%. Pete Hegseth, the nominee for Defense Secretary, 19%. While Kennedy is the most popular of the cabinet picks, he may be the most controversial.
My texts are flying off the chain, both Democrats and Republicans saying, this can't be real. Someone must have gotten this wrong. This can't be possible.
Significant concerns, horror even. Somebody said to me today, I can't think of any single individual who'd be more damaging to public health.
Well, America, I hope you like measles.
We all feel a little bit, I don't know if flummoxed is the right word, sort of rocked by the increasing incredulity of these choices.
It's pretty simple, though. When the attack dogs come out, you know there are some of the largest interest groups, the big money, terrified and threatened. In this case, big food and big pharma hate Robert F. Kennedy. Jillian Michaels, fitness guru, host of the Keeping It Real podcast, is with us, one of our favorite guests. I loved your Instagram video about this. Absolutely fantastic. You're right. America is fatter than ever. We have more diabetes than ever. We are unhealthier than ever. We are also spending more than ever on health care. What do you see as the real opportunity here?
Oh my gosh, it's a once in a lifetime opportunity. And I say that because this has been going on my entire life to change the system. We've got a revolving door policy right now that begets corruption between private industry and our government health agencies. 11 of the last 12 FDA directors went and worked for private industry, big food companies or big pharma, and that's the tip of the iceberg. 8,000 of the grants that the NIH gave out are conflicted. Robert Kennedy has been tasked with three things: root out this kind of corruption, demand gold standard research when it comes to drugs and vaccines, and make America healthy again over the next 2 years. And you are absolutely right when you said that big food, big pharma, and in fact, big insurance are very threatened, and they're coming out in force.
Yeah, no, there's no question about this. But there's this issue about sort of how to do it. And one of the things that's been proposed is banning certain ingredients, like they do in Europe. Red dye number 3 has been banned, and I think my sister speaks from all of us, especially those who love candy corn, Peeps, Skittles. Can someone please explain to me if red dye 3 is just coloring or if it changes the taste? Because if it's the latter, I'm going to fill my entire basement with Brock's jelly beans and candy corn. I put this in War Notes, and then Liberty promptly asked me to send her a Venmo. For her stash. But there's a larger question here, right? Is America going to tolerate the banning of things in the name of health?
Okay, well, let's talk about red number 3. First of all, this has been banned in cosmetics for over 30 years because there are numerous studies that link it to cancer. So we should be outraged by the fact that it took this long, and this only happened because of the spotlight that Robert F. Kennedy has put on activists like Callie Means, Bonnie Hari, Jason Karp, that pointed out these foods, which I don't love anyway, but nevertheless, these ultra-processed foods are made without these chemicals in other countries. They don't add flavor at all. They're simply more colorful, which is attractive to children. So it's how they effectively addict our kids by making them brighter and subsequently more enticing. And there are 10,000 of these chemicals in our food that fall under what's called the GRAS rule, which is called the generally recognized as safe rule. And that means that the relationship between the FDA and big food allows big food to vouch for these chemicals on their own. So they can say, yeah, we did the research and they're generally recognized as safe. However, most countries in the developed world don't find 9,500 or so of these chemicals safe at all, which is why they are banned. And you can still enjoy junk food. But the key is, can you remove some of these toxic chemicals?
Well, so you brought up other countries.
Taste?
You brought up other countries. I think this is what the point you're trying to make, right? We have the ingredients of one of my favorite things. I view this as at the very bottom of the food pyramid. This is a staple in my diet, is Fruit Loops. In the United States, corn flour bread, sugar, starch, vegetable oil, soybean, and then a bunch of other things I can't pronounce. In the UK, cereal flour, sugar, glucose syrup, salt, vegetable and fruit concentrate, natural citrus, whatever. You can pronounce everything in the UK. You can't in the United States. So is it that, and I hate to sort of dumb it down, but is it that simple?
Listen, this is the beginning. Obviously, we would like people to go the extra step and choose something like eggs and whole grain toast for breakfast or a yogurt parfait. But this is the low-hanging fruit that Kennedy can attack right now, and people don't have to make any changes of any kind. The products they already love and enjoy can simply be healthier with a few simple steps by improving regulatory measures by our government health agencies.
Okay, so we go back to where we started, which is America has never been fatter or had more diabetes or spent more on health care. And our good friend Batya Ungar-Sargon, who's often on, talks about how health care is either the number one or number two issue for working class voters. The voters who elected Donald Trump, the cost of health care. How much leeway do you think Robert F. Kennedy has if he gets confirmed to actually start banning things versus advising?
Gosh, to be totally honest with you, I don't know. And that remains to be seen. I question how much pushback he will get across the board. That said,
don't forget about my candy corn. You can pry it from my cold, dead hands.
We're just going to make it a little better for you, okay? Simply going to improve upon it just a bit, Leland. Don't panic. But I do know it is a mandate of the Trump administration. So I am very hopeful that significant change will happen.
Yeah, they put up my candy corn, and my sister and I are going to start.
Oh my God, look at this. This is terrible. Leland, okay, I might actually take that from you. I'm just being honest.
What's terrible about it?
I like ya. We need you over everything. Everything is terrible about it. Everything. Just maybe Halloween. How about Halloween? I'll give you that.
Okay. All right. There we go.
Without the food dino.
Jillian, thank you very much. Awesome conversation. We'll see you when you make it to D.C.
Thank you. I appreciate you having me.
All right. We first wrote about this in War Notes. That's our daily newsletter. It comes out just after 4 p.m. Eastern. Insight and analysis on the top stories of the day. Warnotes.com to subscribe for free. Also social media at Leland Vittert. He's back by popular demand, but will the Trump show be better than the last one? There's bets on this. The bets on Donald Trump when we come back. Down in Palm Beach, Mr. Trump comes to Washington this time around is a very different president-elect than 8 years ago. Trump's learned a lot, still a very complicated man with few real friends. One of them is Bill O'Reilly. O'Reilly and I are on tonight, 9 p.m. Eastern, with the United States of Trump, a look at a complicated man who is singularly focused, as you will find out, on one thing, and that's winning.
When he was elected in 16 and took over in 17, he didn't know what he was doing. And he'll tell you that. He comes out of New York City real estate world where he knows everybody and he gets what he wants, into Washington, D.C., where everybody hates him, and he's not getting what he wants, even from his own team. And he's not quite sure about who's good and who's bad. So the first year was chaos.
Now, the polls back up O'Reilly's statements. Trump's favorability is rising as Joe Biden's declines. So you can see entering office 2021, Biden was way up. Trump 41% in 2017. Now Biden 39, Trump up at 47%. That is tonight's By the Numbers segment. Scott Tranter, head of data science, Decision Desk HQ, Democratic strategist Kurt Bardella, also NewsNation contributor with us. Gentlemen, good to see you. Scott, what is the difference between Trump 2017, Trump now? What does that 6-point spread represent?
So that represents, I think, one big thing. If we look at his approval of the transition, the voters, by and large, 60% did not approve of his handling the transition last time. Now they're at 60%. That's a bipartisan support for, they think he's handling the transition well.
So there are people who voted for Kamala Harris who approve of how he's handling things.
Yes. Yep.
Kurt, who are those people? Are they traitors to the Democrats?
No, I think that they're people.
That's like 15 points, man.
I think they're people who are just glad that the election's over, the TV ads are over. They're like, thank God we don't have to deal with this anymore. We're ready to move on.
All right, so there are betting odds on almost everything. This is something Scott was with us on the whole time. Betting odds. What will Trump say on Monday? America First, 79% chance. Illegal immigrant, 62% chance. America at least 15 times, 77% chance. Kamala, 22% chance. There is this idea of some type of unity speech. We're not going to hear American carnage. What do you see in this? What does the polling tell us America wants to hear?
It's telling us they want to hear what his vision is going forward, which was what he focused on his campaign, specifically around economics. What's interesting to me is I think that 22% for Kamala is too high. I don't see him mentioning any former Democrat, former opponent, former president. He's going to keep the focus on him and his agenda.
All right, so Bardella, for Democrats, and I think this is an important question, how long Donald Trump can keep this up and whether the resistance, we've been talking about how it sort of crumbled, will it pick up? Betting odds, Trump favorability rating by month. February 1st, 49%. March 1st, 45%. April 1st, 33%. Day 100, 33% chance of having a positive favorability rating. I would take the over on that, wouldn't you?
Yeah, I mean, I think this is true in the world that we live in now. The first couple of weeks that you're in office, like that's as good as it's probably going to ever be for you as president. In the polarized country that we live in, where people are always looking for a reason to tear you down, there's only so high you can go. I think we're past the point in this country where presidents have approval ratings of 55% and 60%. Like, that era is over and gone. That's just not the country that we have right now.
Is it, Scott? Is it really over?
Over is.
We keep hearing America.
Over.
We keep hearing America wants to be brought together.
Well, they want to be brought together. I think what's interesting about Donald Trump is he is taking a different tone. As you pointed out, American carnage is not going to be the focus of the speech. He's going to come out more prepared. We're hearing hundreds of executive orders. We're hearing lots of bills being passed, all those types of things. It'll be interesting if he's able to capitalize that, and that's able to keep his approval rating up high. Maybe the one wild card, so to speak, is I think he is going to probably start mass deportations. How that plays out on TV, how that plays out amongst the public, are his supporters going to be galvanized by that, or are his detractors going to be have something to bring him down his support levels?
All Democrats have to do is take a step back and remember, you never underestimate the Republican Party's ability to sabotage themselves. They'll do it again.
And we've said that on television before, but at some point, though, Democrats are bad at taking a step back, number one.
Yes.
And number two, they don't have anybody leading them, for lack of a better term. Hence why you had confirmation hearings where they came out looking a lot worse and Donald Trump and his nominees came out looking a lot better. This, I think, has been my favorite poll over the past, I don't know how many months. Who leads the Democrats? This is from USA Today. Don't know, 30%. Nobody, 19%. Vice President Kamala Harris, 10%. Minority Leader Hakeem Jeffries, 9%.
Yeah, I think that 9% for Jeffries is too high. I don't think 9% of Americans know who he is. I think the answer is nobody. Right now, this is a rudderless party, a leaderless party, and it's going to take them a while to figure it out.
All right, so chaos presents, crisis presents opportunity.
Chaos is a ladder.
Opportunity and danger as well for Donald Trump to get things done.
I'm just doing the math on that. That only adds up to about 60. That means that the people not on there outweigh the biggest number, the 30% who don't know. That just shows chaos there.
See, here it is, Tranter doing math in his head. This is the numbers guy. Yeah. There's one smart guy out here, and you got Kurt and I. And there you go. Okay. So this comes down to what you're saying is that Donald Trump can do some things, and if the Democrats don't have their act together, one of them might be, say, buy Greenland. Take a listen.
Can you assure the world that as you try to get control of these areas, you are not going to use military or economic coercion?
No, you're talking about Panama and Greenland. No, I can't assure you on either of those two. But I can say this, we need them for economic security.
All right, so you can bet on this. Will Trump buy Greenland before July in 2025? Kurt's excited about this.
This is the question that will define his presidency right here. Will he be able to buy Greenland?
One thing to point out on the Greenland thing, look, if we look at the polling, and there is a little bit of polling on that, it is a bipartisan issue. As long as he doesn't take it by force, most Americans want to see...
Same with mass deportations. 60% of Americans support it.
Yeah. And I think, look, the 18% chance in 2025, I think that's a little too high. Knowing how these things go, it's going to take some sort of congressional deal. It's like a trade deal. So I think it's going to go there. I don't know it'll be 2025, but I'd put it at a higher than 50% chance it happens in his 4-year term.
I hope Republicans spend the next 4 years talking about trying to buy Greenland. That would be the greatest gift for the Democratic Party.
Mind you, 56% of Greenlanders want some sort of agreement with the United States. Whether that's statehood, different question, but they have an ability to vote for...
I feel like polling Greenlanders would be hard.
56,000 of them, they kind of stay home. They've got phones. It's actually not that
they're not
calling them
out a lot.
Yeah.
All right. Gentlemen, thank you very much. Appreciate it. Come Monday, the Trump family is back, and it is a family business. New reporting on who will fill the very big shoes of Ivanka Trump this time around.
So Andrew Jackson, bombastic, doesn't care what anybody thinks, gonna do it his way. He could have been Donald Trump's twin brother. He's a man who lives to win. He is the most competitive person I have ever encountered. Donald Trump gets bored easily. When he's bored, watch out. When he was elected in 16 and took over in 17, he didn't know what he was doing. And he'll tell you that. He comes out of New York City real estate world where he knows everybody and he gets what he wants, into Washington, D.C., where everybody hates him and he's not getting what he wants, even from his own team. Don Jr., his son, very loyal to him, said, I have never in my entire life heard my father admit to a mistake.
What has to happen for him to earn the legacy that he wants?
O'Reilly, Trump, and the access every network wants, but only NewsNation has.
I will give you unprecedented insight because of my access to President Trump. Don't miss it. Coming up.
Bill O'Reilly's United States of Trump, tonight at 9/8 Central, only on NewsNation.
When Donald Trump comes to the White House for the second time, something is going to be very different. Ivanka and Jared won't be there. Ivanka Trump, widely reported as Donald Trump's favorite child, spoke on the Him and Her podcast earlier this week about why she would not be returning to the White House.
I love policy and impact. I hate politics. And unfortunately, the two are not separable. You know, there is a darkness to that world that I don't really want to welcome into mine. To some degree, I'm, at the center of the storm because my father is about to be president, but it's a very dark, negative business.
With us now in the No columnist, reporter for our partners at The Hill, Judy Kurtz. Welcome. You know what I was thinking about that whole soundbite is how nice that set was? The Him and Her set.
Beautiful,
yeah,
right?
How is D.C. going to be different? We talked about how Donald Trump is different. First inauguration to second inauguration. How is D.C. going to be different?
Yeah, I think it will be different. For the Trump family, it's always been, there's a saying, the family that prays together stays together. Well, for the Trumps, it's the family that campaigns together stays together. They've always been a family unit on the campaign trail. This time around, not so much. Ivanka and Jared will not be part of the White House. It won't be like a family reunion every time you step in the West Wing. I think that will make a big difference in the Trump White House, but it's also understandable. Ivanka Trump was sort of in this impossible position when she was working as a senior advisor for her father in the White House. Critics kept saying she should be a moderating force for her father.
That said, it's interesting, right? Because in D.C., the Trumps and the Trump administration folks were not the celebrities that typically is certainly a Democratic administration. Certainly the Obama folks were, the Biden folks were sort of these larger-than-life figures. I'm not talking even about the family, but even those who worked for them. Does that change? Is D.C. going to be more accepting of the Trump administration the second time?
We've seen a little bit of a thaw, even amongst Hollywood celebrities and accepting Trump.
Carrie Underwood's coming.
Yeah, who they had largely shunned en masse in his first administration. So we might see a thaw in the D.C. scene, having the Trumps out and about. That being said, President Trump didn't go out in Washington when he was president. He would only go to the Trump Hotel, which is not under his brand name anymore. So we'll have to see if he actually ventures out into Washington and becomes more part of the city here.
Yeah, that's a good point. Also, see what Melania does. Here she was on Fox and Friends.
I will continue with Be Best, and also I will expand Be Best. I started in the first administration. I didn't have much support from anyone. I invited all of the streaming platforms to the White House. I had the round table, and I didn't have much support from them. And imagine what we could do in those years if they will rally behind me.
I think we're going to be watching for Melania 2.0. I think this is going to be Melania Unleashed now, coming in the second term.
What does that mean, though?
I think she felt, she has a chip on her shoulder. She was not embraced by Washington when she was here. Before the inauguration last time around in 2017, a lot of fashion designers refused to dress her because they didn't like the policies of her husband. So I think this time around, she feels like she has some experience under her belt. She has nothing to prove to anyone. She's going to do what she wants to do. I think she's going to be one to watch.
Okay, and what does that mean, though? In terms of what does she do or not do? What are the choices as First Lady?
I think if she wants to be in New York, she's going to be in New York. If she wants to be at Mar-a-Lago, she's going to be at Mar-a-Lago.
She says she's going to be at the White House.
She's also going to be at the White House. She's going to continue with her Be Best initiative, which was widely mocked by critics when she first launched it. So she's digging right back into it. She's not backing down. She's not going to, curtail her efforts because of what the critics may say.
Yeah, it'll be interesting also. I go back to the staff. Remember Sarah Huckabee Sanders when she was kicked out of a restaurant, whether that continues for the second term. My bet is it will not be nearly as bad. We'll see. Thaw, you said. Judy, it's good to see you.
Great to see you.
As always, thank you. When President Trump sits behind the Resolute desk on Monday afternoon, the very first thing, or one of the very first things he is going to have to deal with is that thing called TikTok. Your kids all have it on their phones. Chris is next with whether TikTok is really the national security threat. We are all told that it is. I'll see you on Monday.